Recently, a brand new lunar robot was shown off in preparation for an upcoming trip to the moon on a SpaceX Starship. Astrolab, based in Hawthorne, California, and SpaceX have come to a deal that will allow Astrolab's Flexible Logistics and Exploration, or FLEX rover, to be sent to the moon on a planned Starship trip. On Friday, March 31st, an official announcement from Astrolab said that the journey could happen as early as the middle of the year 2026. When it gets there, the FLEX rover will be the biggest and most flexible vehicle ever driven on the moon's surface. The pictures make it look like it's a little bit smaller than a normal four-door car, but when it's fully loaded with cargo, it weighs almost 2 tons. It will be able to carry up to 2 astronauts, and each of them will have their own control panel on board to run the ship. It also has a robotic arm that can move the ship's modular cargo part, which can hold a lot of different kinds of scientific and business technology. FLEX is designed to be controlled from afar if there are no workers on site, and it has a robotic arm that can do this. Astrolab built FLEX so that it would meet all of NASA's Lunar Terrain Vehicle, or LTV, standards. The company is working on the Artemis project, and the goal is to have a whole FLEX fleet roaming the surface of the moon. "We have made a logistics system that can handle a wide range of cargo types," the company said. In the company's announcement, founder and CEO Jared Matthews was quoted as saying, "We expect that this approach will help us set up a permanent lunar outpost on the moon, and in less time than was previously thought." The engineers who are working on FLEX think that the robot could also be used on future trips to Mars. On Friday, it was said that FLEX will be sent into space on a SpaceX Starship on top of a super heavy rocket. This happens just a few weeks before the rocket is expected to try its first test flight into orbit. When Starship is fully working, it should be able to send 100 tons into space. Also, NASA has given SpaceX a contract to build a Starship as the crewed lunar lander for the Artemis program, which is likely to happen around the year 2025. In the press release, Astrolab said that the company has already signed several contracts to send customer payloads on FLEX's first trip. Before, planetary rovers were one-of-a-kind machines that were made just for their jobs. But this is not the case with the FLEX rover, which has a unique modular design that makes it better able to change. Because of how it is made, FLEX can have a 2-person crew interface that is not pressurized put into it. This part of the ship for the crew can be taken off to make room for more goods. The robotic arm can also do scientific and logistical jobs, like taking samples. The rover's chassis stays level on rough terrain thanks to an adaptive suspension system that also helps it do some things on its own. The batteries inside FLEX are charged by a set of movable solar panels that automatically face the sun. Also, the FLEX can move a combined weight of almost 2 tons, which is almost 3 times as much as its bigger ancestor could do. With a big program update, the Curiosity rover will be able to move faster across the surface of Mars, and its wheels will wear out less quickly. This could lead to a longer time that the mission can be used. Between April 3rd and April 7th, Curiosity got more than 180 software changes. Here are 2 of those changes. This is the first major software change for the rover since 2016. The flight software is essential to our mission, so this is a big deal for our team, NASA's Curiosity project manager Kathia Zamora Garcia said in a press release. Without it, the mission couldn't be done. Because this is such a big change to the plan, we wanted to make sure we did everything right by checking it twice. Since 2012, when the Curiosity robot landed on Mars for the first time, it has been studying the area of Mars called Gale Crater. One of its main goals has been to look for signs of old water, as well as meteorites and strange rock formations. One of the most important software updates made the rover even easier to move around, which was already an amazing feat. Curiosity can now take pictures of the surface of Mars and process them while also exploring the area on its own. Both the rover and the experts working on Mars will save time this way. We use less energy every day because our cars sit still for shorter amounts of time between driving parts. In the same statement, Jonathan Dennis, who's in charge of Curiosity's mechanical operations, said, "Even though we're almost 11 years old, we're still trying out new ways to do more science activities with the energy we have. Sharp rocks on Mars are to blame for the wheels on Curiosity getting more worn down over the past 12 years. The team working on the Curiosity rover put a secret algorithm into the software update that will let the rover change its speed depending on the terrain it is studying. To put it another way, when the rover comes across rocks that look rough, it will move slowly. It's like trying to find your way through a trap on Mars." The rover's old code was simplified. New mobility instructions were added to make steering easier, a way was added to make it easier to move the rover's arms and mast, and paths were added to make it easier to add new software patches in the future. These are just some of the changes that were made to the program. Even though their next-generation rocket hasn't flown yet, SpaceX is still taking orders for its Starship. The previous Friday, a company called Astrolab announced that it had just signed a deal with Elon Musk's private space company to reserve a spot on an unmanned Starship freight mission that could launch as early as the middle of 2026. In an interview with the New York Times, Jarrett Matthews, the CEO of Astrolab, said this is SpaceX's first commercial cargo contract to the lunar surface. SpaceX might test Starship's first orbital flight the week after next. At the Boca Chica site in Texas on Thursday, new pictures of the Super Heavy lift rocket were taken, and the private space company tweeted them out. "Starship is fully stacked at Starbase," SpaceX said about the photos. The team is preparing for a launch rehearsal next week, which will be followed by Starship's first integrated flight test a week later, if the government gives its approval. On the same day, Elon Musk, the owner of SpaceX, came up with a plan that was even faster. Starship is packed and ready to launch next week, pending approval from regulatory authorities, he said. Since almost the beginning of this year, the goal date for Starship's first trip into space has been changing. Musk said at the beginning of February that SpaceX would try to launch Starship in March if all of the company's final tests went well. This news came out a week after SpaceX did the first successful stacked fueling test for the rocket. A few days later, SpaceX tried to fire all 33 of the first-stage Raptor engines without moving the ship. This was something the company had never done before. Even though the rocket didn't do so well in the test, which was an important step towards Starship's first orbital flight, the test was still an important part of the process. 2 of the fire trucks broke down before the fire was put out. Thank you so much for watching this video.